Good afternoon. Today we will gonna talk about the differences and similarities between and those countries are United States and South Africa. My name is Jonathan, and let's see how where are those similarities and obviously the differences. We're gonna start with USA. Alexia, tell us about. We are gonna talk about first of all, if you can see our college, the first images, the first I don't know, this little guy, it means about the forms of government between USA and South Africa. And obviously, we're gonna start with differences. The first one is United States form of government. So, Alexia, tell us about the United States.
State constitute a constitutional federal republic with the presidential regime as a form of government based of the separation of the powers in the three branches: executive, legislative, and
And that's so interesting because it's like our country, and I think there is a one similarity with Mexico. Obviously, it's not our country that we're gonna talk about, but there is the similarity. And then we're gonna talk about South Africa. Brian, could you tell us about how is the form of government in South Africa?
Parliamentary republic, the central government is headed by the president of the republic, who is both the head of the government and is elected by the National Assembly. The current president is Cyril Ramaphosa since 15 February 2018, and the vice president of the republic is David Mabuza since 27 February 2018.
Okay, let's move on to the second picture or images, and that is obviously money, which it means economics. So Alexia, talk us about a little bit of the economy of United States.
in the USA is dollar. The United States is the world leading economy by volume of gross domestic product.
Yeah, and that's interesting. There, obviously, we know that the United States had so super political and economical development, and the economy is so important for this country. So then. Let's move on to South Africa. Brian, could you please tell us about something, the economy of South Africa?
In South Africa, Rand, sir. South Africa is the most industrialized nation of the African continent. Its industries include sectors such as agriculture, financial services, tourism, and trade. In this way, is this part of the BRICS and G20 bloc is the number 42 economy by volume of gross domestic product.
Okay, and that's still interesting. The equivalent of the TMEC from South Africa is the BRICS, and there is another similarity, but at least at the same time we have obviously a difference. So let's move on to the next picture that it's a famous paint, and that means the art. So let's talk about the art between these countries. So we start with United States.
Okay, in the America, art like the vast in the diverse nation and great, it's in characteristic by contrast, fusion, and hybrid in the in and in order to address this complex question is over an examination on the themes, ideas, and influence.
Africa, the scene is continually developing and takes on the unique essence of the country, from bases and posts to decorative wax elements embodied in everyday fashion. Works by Lisa Firer, but South African art and the scene have always acquired the unique essence of the country.
Yeah, and that is the contrast between these two countries because they have the specific way to make art. Probably in United States is more like modern and more brightly colors. In South Africa it's more like traditional, like ancient way to paint, and that makes so interesting the comparison between these two countries. So let's move on to the next images, to our next step, and that is these little cubes ABC. That means the education. So let's talk about the education in the United States.
In the United States, education is compulsory for a student unit the age of 16 years have an education system which is kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, and high school.
Yeah, the normal way to of education that all we know, but there we have the most visual contrast, and that is South Africa. So Brian, tell us about the education in South Africa, please.
In South Africa, has the highest rates of educational exclusion. Moreover, girls still face barriers to education in most regions, and particularly in Africa, where girls of all age are more likely to be excluded from education.
Yeah, and that I think that is so sad because obviously the United States it's a first world country, and South Africa it's third world country. So there is one of the most visual, the most specific contrast between these two countries because in one country you can have a quality education, and in another country you more likely have one or two grades of education. And let's move on to the next image, that is this card and this money, which means a trade. How is the trade, the international relations in these countries? So let's start with USA.
In the United States is the world's largest importer and second largest exporter of goods, as well as the largest importer and exporter of commercial service.
Yeah, and that is I don't know. I think that is a quality of United States that all we know the constant globalization in the country, but we have the counterpart that is South Africa. So let's see how South Africa works in the international balance.
In South Africa, in 2019, South Africa was the world's number 36 economy in terms of gross domestic product, number 36 in total exports, number 39 in total imports, number 99 economy in terms of gross domestic product, and the number 57 most complex economy according to the Economic Complex Index.
Okay, and that is there is a similarity obviously in a globalization like this in our days. It's obviously that all the countries will grow up, but we know that United States they have an hegemony, and it's absolutely so. Those were the differences. So let's talk about similarities. And the first one is this church that all we can see. That means religion. So Alexia, could you tell us about religion in USA and South Africa?
Yes, the most professional religion is the Christianism with an average of 69% between the both countries. It is positioned as number one religion.
Yeah, and I think that is in all over the world. The Christianism is one of the most professed religions around the globe. And let's move on to the next picture, and that is this little thermometer that obviously it talks about weather and temperature. So could you tell us about something?
For impressive that I sounds, the average temperature between these two countries is 22 degrees, and the humidity is in average of 60%.
Yeah, and that is awesome because Africa has a lot of deserts like United States. So let's talk about the
Really?
hurricanes. Alexia, could you tell us about the hurricanes?
Yes, both countries has been colonized by the British isn't a secret. During the period of the British colonized almost the countries around the world.
Yeah, all we know that the British Empire really colonized a lot of countries like New Zealand. Obviously, South Africa doesn't say about this colonization. So let's move on to the next picture. And that is, we have a little picture of Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King, and what means that we gonna talk about the battle of human rights. So, Brian, could you please tell us about the human rights?
We know that the battle of human rights and racism is present all over the world, but in this specific case, both the countries had iconic representatives. For one hand, had Nelson Mandela, and the other hand, USA had Martin Luther King.
Yeah, those are one of the most representative uh, persons of the human rights and anti-racism movements. And I don't know, I thought that it's so important to include in our research because human rights it's a really important topic. And finally, we have this little planet that it's our planet. This little world, obviously, we will gonna talk about geographic location. So, Alexia, could you please tell us about geographic locations?
Both of countries touch two oceans. In the case of USA, the countries touch the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, and South Africa case is touch the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean too.
Yeah, and that brings yeah, that's interesting because obviously to have an access of the ocean bring to these countries an advantage and I don't know a globalized advantage because all the international trade we they have one of these routes to probably more efficient way to import or export some merchandise. So I think that is a really important point. And I think we covered all the points, all the specific topics in this collage. So thank you very much. That's all for today and see you later. Bye.